This morning, a home goes up in flames as Australia's southeast battles through another spring scorcher. Pacific countries agree to a historic trade deal. And transport chaos expected as Sydney streets close for light rail.
This is 7 News Early Edition with Natalie Barr.
Good morning. Scorching weather conditions have brought an early start to the bushfire season across the country's southeast.
This morning, Muslim leaders expressed their shock and condolences a week after the Parramatta terror attack. Homicide detectives find a body believed to be missing Melbourne mum Penny Bailey. And a V8 driver in more hot water for comments about Bathurst's all-female team.
This is 7 News Morning Edition with Ann Sanders.
Good morning. Muslim community leaders have expressed their condolences to the family of Curtis Cheng.
This is 7's Afternoon News with Ann Sanders.
Good afternoon. France has acted swiftly, retaliating against Islamic State for the attacks on Paris. French fighter jets bomb IS targets in Syria, hitting command posts in its biggest raid yet on the terror group. Paris remains a city on edge. A crowd mourning the victims was panicked, fearing a new wave of terror. Police release a photo of a possible accomplice as an international manhunt gathers pace for those who helped plan the attacks. And Australians return home from Paris to the comfort of their families. Jim.
Thank you, Anne. Good afternoon, everyone. In sport, all the highlights from the first session on day 4 in Perth, plus the Socceroos. And it's exactly 10 years today since one of the great moments in Australian sport. Sal.
Thanks, Jim. On the weather front, the heat is heading our way. More detail on the summer-like warmth in 10 minutes.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7's Afternoon News with Jacqueline Felgate.
This afternoon, the mother of 3 children who drowned in a Wyndham Vale lake quizzed by homicide detectives. Free rides for Melbourne rail commuters as train drivers threaten strike action. 2-year bans for Collingwood players who took illicit drugs. And a Victorian MP vows to change Parliament after taking over as Speaker. Good afternoon. The mother of 3 children who drowned when their car went into a lake at Wyndham Vale is being questioned over their deaths.
This is 7's Afternoon News, live and local across southeast Queensland.
Hello, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Kendall Gilding. Making news today, 2 homes have been destroyed in separate fires in the southeast. One at Park Ridge in Logan and the other at Leichhardt in Ipswich. Jason Day's emotional win at the US PGA, the young Queensland golfer joins the sports elite with a breakthrough victory. Work begins on the Gold Coast's new 6-star hotel. Stunning new images of the $345 million upgrade of Jupiter's Hotel and Casino.
Hello, I'm Angela Sun. You're watching 7's 4:30 News live from Perth. Coming up, an incredible mid-air scare as a Perth skydiver has a seizure 9,000 feet in the air. A serial firebug in another arson attack in Perth's south. A bushland search in the hunt for a missing toddler. And heavily armed guards for 4 Perth schools at risk of terror.
On 7 News tonight, Sydney's auction slump has the housing bubble finally burst. A young driver's terrifying carjacking ordeal. The desperate search for a British tourist missing off South Curl Curl. The push to pay grandparents who care for their grandchildren. And a warning for parents about food label lies.
This is 7 News at 6 with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. Sydney's property boom appears to be well and truly over. The auction clearance rate dropped yesterday to its lowest level in 3 years.
Done it. The first team in the 18-team competition to go back to back to back. They're 3-peaters.
Tonight's a rare triple treat. Hawthorn players and fans savour the sweet taste of 3 premierships in a row. The temperature soars as Melbourne makes the most of the warmest grand final day ever. Also, a teenage terrorist blamed for a deadly police station shooting. A motorist charged with murder after a man was mowed down by a four-wheel drive. A cyclist tells of his disgust at being left to die in Lygon Street. And cars withdrawn from sale in Australia as the Volkswagen diesel scandal hits home.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. Hawthorn has secured its place in history as one of the greatest teams of all time after winning a third consecutive premiership with a 46-point thrashing of the West Coast Eagles at the MCG.
On 7 News tonight, the new Queensland police strategy to shoot first in a terror situation.
Fresh airstrikes on Islamic State as France declares war and Parisians honour victims of the terror attacks.
3 killed when a cattle truck and four-wheel drive collide south of Toowoomba.
Fire tears through a Gold Coast care facility, forcing residents with special needs to flee.
And a delicate rescue as a machinery operator is left dangling on the edge of a cliff.
This is 7 News Queensland.
Good evening. The Police Commissioner has revealed Queensland officers will be trained to shoot armed attackers immediately rather than negotiate with terrorists.
Tonight, child welfare fears spark calls for an inquiry into a family daycare agency.
The Medicare co-payment out, but the cost of stamps set to soar.
Nurses sick and tired over parking.
The main issue with parking is that there is none.
And startling findings on long-term paracetamol use.
7 News with John Riddell and Jane Doyle. Good evening. The state opposition's demanding an urgent inquiry into a family daycare agency, saying children are potentially at risk.
Tonight, shocking details as a WA teenager admits killing his baby son.
Fire threatens homes in Baldivis, the third time in under a month.
Tony Abbott's new war on terror. Tough changes to keep Australia safe as a militant group threatens deadly attacks at Westfield shopping centres.
And 4 Oscars each for Birdman and the Grand Budapest Hotel as the stars shine in Hollywood.
From the studios of 7 Perth, Rick Arden and Susanna Carr.
Good evening, welcome to 7 News. A teenage boy has pleaded guilty to killing his newborn son. It happened in Bunbury last year when the boy was just 15.
This afternoon, new details about Sydney's teenage terrorist as police search a nearby mosque. Melbourne cyclists rally in support of 2 riders mowed down by hit-run drivers. Was the US behind a deadly airstrike on a Doctors Without Borders hospital in Afghanistan? And thousands of AFL fans bask in the glory of Hawthorn's premiership win.
This is 7 News at 5 with Angie Azimus.
Good afternoon. Detectives in Sydney have searched a Parramatta mosque as part of their investigation into the shooting of a police worker by a radicalised Muslim teenager.
Queensland draws first blood. The Maroons win a thriller to restore some state of origin pride against New South Wales. Breaking overnight, a soccer in crisis, Qatar's World Cup under a cloud, and FIFA bosses facing jail for taking bribes. New this morning, bombshell claims about when the Catholic Church knew of Jared Risdale's sexual behaviour. Plus, the Queen's speech, how it could change Europe forever. Also, The Rock in action. We're there on the Gold Coast as he films his new thriller. And win $20,000. The cash cow jackpot is up for grabs on this Thursday, the 28th of May 2015.
Right across Australia, this is Sunrise on 7. Now live from Brekkie Central, Koshi and Sam.
Oh, Eddie.
New South Wales is crying today.
That's Eddie from the Gold Coast, although he does support New South Wales.
He's down every year for State of Origin.
They are celebrating in Queensland this morning.
Yeah.
Nat and I are celebrating because we tipped them, even though I'm a New South Wales girl.
Good evening to you and welcome to the show. First tonight, more shocking revelations in the South Australian family daycare scandal. Since our investigation aired last night, more whistleblowers have come forward exposing further allegations of corruption and abuse of public money.